It's 11:30. Hi, everyone. So, I'm very lucky because you can see these three brands. I represent the Vermont State one, but I'm very honored to be with more important and relevant brands in the industry day to day. We try to leverage students to then go work at these companies. I'm a Mac guy, so give me a second. So hi, I'm Tim Egan. I'm a part-time faculty with Vermont State University. Today we're going to talk advertising with the dynamic duo. Is that what I saw floating around on LinkedIn? Brendan McKee and Zach Santarciero. Did I get it? I've been practicing. I think I actually asked Will how to pronounce it.
Very well done.
Why am I here? I teach communications and journalism. I've worked in the advertising business for 35 years. I teach that at Vermont State, at the Linden and Johnson campuses. But I'm also the instructor running the Cannabis business course and the internship program at the Cannabis Studies program out of our Castleton campus. So, you know, I bring to this world sort of understanding of the industry and then how to sort of educate folks on it. And in my spare time, which I have none of, as you can tell, I'm the new chapter director here in Vermont for Normal, and I'm the long-suffering 5-year chair of the New Hampshire Cannabis Trade Association, and I don't need to say any more than long-suffering if you know what's going on in New Hampshire. But better than me are, So, Brendan McKee. Brendan, do you want to talk a little bit about who you are and why you wanted to come talk today?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for being here. It means a lot. Vermont's a special place. I'm a resident in Washington, and I've been coming up here since I was a kid, milking cows at a family dairy farm. But yeah, I started one of the first adult use retails in Massachusetts back in early 2019. Fortunately, it did really well. It was on the corner of Vermont and New York, right in the northern Berkshires in the town of Williamstown. So we were capturing kind of 3 states. Sometimes we were getting people from Ohio. It was pretty wild. And leveraged that, was able to take that growth and I've opened about a dozen stores now across 4 states with some cultivation and product manufacturing mixed in. Incredibly grateful. And we've been working with, I don't want to say using, we've been working with cannabis planters from the beginning. I saw their logo on a CBD website back in 2018, clicked it, cold emailed, Will Reed got back to me, and that was the spark of it all. So yeah, it's been a great journey, and I love the plant, I love what it does for people, and that's why we do what we do.
And you do it well with your colleague. Zach, Cannabis planters, I explained this, and I'm going to give this public shout out. I introduced, they probably met before, but I had a nice conversation with Will Reed and Commissioner James Pepper, and I said, Cannabis planters is one of the preeminent advertising agencies in the cannabis space, you know, if not the East Coast of the country.
Thanks.
How did you end up there, and what have you been, I mean, the CMO, you do a lot, but what do you like about that and the world of cannabis advertising separate from advertising?
I think it's difficult to call it advertising because there's so many traditional forms of advertising that are unavailable to cannabis retailers and businesses in general. So a lot of what we do is just finding the things that we can do and doing them really well. But yeah, I'm the co-founder of Cannabis Planters at this point. Actually, the way that I got introduced to Cannabis Planters was in this exact room back in May 2018. I saw Will giving a speech about Cannabis Planters, and at that point, he was really, like, the company was focused on CBD and hemp companies, which a lot of you guys started out as. And so yeah, I saw a really big opportunity because at that time, I was at dealer.com doing search engine optimization for car dealerships. And before that, I was doing that same work for plumbers and HVAC contractors. And if you think about like customer acquisition for those types of businesses, it's very similar to how dispensaries get customers from search results today. In terms of like dispensary near me, that's the biggest keyword for dispensaries, right? Like car dealership near me, Audi dealer near me, plumber near me. It's the same exact thing in those industries. So that's one thing that was really translatable from those industries to cannabis. And yeah, at that point, nobody was really thinking about it yet as like a service that could be offered, and nobody was really like considering how big of a deal the Google business profile is. So we saw that as an opportunity to help and step in and kind of take my knowledge from those other industries and bring it to cannabis. And here we are, 6 years later.
And so, what we want to talk about is really sort of 2 areas. right? Which is, let's look at the best of both worlds, fusing digital and traditional marketing tools to stand out in a crowded field. Because from my impression, with some of the challenges that are in the advertising world tied to the federal aspect of cannabis, there are some limitations that are there. Some we know states have more limitations than others. We'll stop there. So we're going to talk a little bit, but we also want to hear your questions. We also want to be a sounding board for your problems. This isn't just us talking at you. We want to talk with you. But let's talk a little bit about, I'm 61. I started from the traditional world. You're not 61 or anywhere near that. Embarrass me and tell me how old you are.
I'm 30.
Okay, and you're somewhere in between.
41.
Right? So, I grew up with magazines and newspapers and radio and television. And then one day somebody came in and said, oh, here's this little cable box, put it in your house. Literally, it was like 18, 17. I was like, holy shit, this is cool. MTV, yeah. So the traditional world of advertising is still vibrant. Let's talk about sort of one of the ones that I think is well done and some of the limitations that are tied to it is, I know 7 Days is a newspaper in the state of Vermont that can say to the state, we do have a majority of a 21 plus crowd. That's a big guideline that hamstrings a lot of advertising. That the advertiser has to say to the state, the venue we're using is predominantly 21 plus. Do you see that still as a viable tool from the advertising industry? Papers like that, or avant-garde newspapers or magazines that can attest to that as a traditional world? Is that something that you guys pay attention to from either the brand side or the agency side?
Yeah. I think as a brick and mortar retailer, I think for a couple of reasons, we want to engage and be part of the community, and I think part of that is working with local publishers, and to the extent that we're allowed to be in those publications, we want to be. So at our Bennington location, we've actually had our issues sometimes with, we'll advertise and we'll kind of get feedback that, oh, hey, you got to adjust this, adjust that. So then you rerun it and it's all good. But there's definitely value in traditional, particularly in the local side of things. I wouldn't, we're in Bennington, right? So I wouldn't do anything in Burlington, but in Bennington, around Bennington, we definitely advertise and work with, like I said, local publications. It's definitely very relevant for us. And the chamber, that local chamber is incredible. So we do a lot of work with them to the extent that we can advertise with them. That's been really good for us. But yeah, I don't know, Zach, you can speak to the...
Yeah, I think it's important for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of ways to leverage local newspapers and local articles in a way that impacts your other marketing channels. So getting links, we call them local church links. Getting links that point to your website from these other local news sources can impact how your website shows up in Google search and how your Google business profile shows up in search. So one thing that we're always talking about with our clients on the SEO services side is this thing called domain authority, and that's basically a factor that Google uses to understand how trustworthy your website is, how many people come and visit it, and getting other websites to link to your website impacts that domain authority. So especially if you think about that on a local level, the more local businesses that you can get online to say, hey, I trust this dispensary, they're near me, the greater impact that's going to have on showing up in search results. And then kind of two-pronged for that, one thing we really focus on is building email lists. That's the best way to communicate with your customers. I'm sure you've all dealt with Instagram and having social media profiles taken down. So, your email list is one thing that ideally you always own and you can always keep as a channel to loudspeaker here.
It's Eli.
It's just Eli. It's got that nice loud projector. But yeah, putting a QR code in that article, for example, that links to a landing page on your website that will get people to sign up and give you their contact information so that you can get them into your email flows. It's never just about the one thing that you're doing. It's thinking about how it connects to the entirety of your brand and how people find it.
So you're leveraging traditional media and finding the resources within it to utilize to get exposure and then maximizing it with the digital flex. Another sort of traditional media, signage, right? You know, billboards and signage and those type of pieces of content have been around forever, right? Hang out the shingle, we used to write that phrase, I'm gonna hang out the shingle and start my own business. How important is visibility, knowing that sometimes also communities are gonna be like, what are you building? Cannabis shop? You know, they get a little wiggy. You've had to put your shops up.
Yeah.
How have you dealt with signage and customer-facing visibility in towns, and how do you work with that? Hey, I want your taxation revenue, Mr. Business. Oh, I don't want you to, you know, tell everybody what you're selling here, because we're not 100% everybody on the select board on board.
Yeah, each municipality is different. Boston was probably the biggest pain in the ass. It's just like, took like a year, you know, to get our signage up, and finally get it approved. It was iteration after iteration after iteration. It was just crazy. It was like they didn't want us there, which was a bummer. But it just depends. Like, obviously, when we're looking for retails, when we're out there, we're going into Minnesota, we're going to New Jersey, we're looking for locations that have high visibility, good parking, good signage. It's kind of like, as you look at these markets and as they mature, like, you need good retail locations. You can't be stuffed in some industrial park with no visibility. That's where, like, the digital stuff is even more critical, bless you. And the, you know, the local stuff is even more critical, like, because people need to see you. They need to be able to drive by and see the signage. And so that's a huge part of how we evaluate retail opportunities now. And we're always, you know, we just kind of went through a rebrand, and we went back to some of the towns that we're in and asked for larger signage, and fortunately we were able to get it. So it's constant for us. We're always trying to get as much signage as possible and just make sure customers can see us.
One thing I feel like that Silver Therapeutics does really well that likely helps with that second conversation is you guys like entrench yourself in the community that you're involved in. Like, I remember you talking about at one point there's a local Little League that wanted you guys to sponsor the team, but like obviously you can't sponsor a Little League team as a cannabis company, but like just to get that request, it's like, it's huge. It says a lot about like your impact on the community.
Totally. A few times I've been approached by like, youth sports, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, we can't do this. But I will donate. You know, I'll donate to the programs. We'll buy the uniforms. And so we'll find an organization that is okay, that can be on the uniforms that we work with, like a local restaurant, and we'll say, hey, put your logo on it, but you know, we'll fund it. We're happy to support it. But yeah, no, that was like one of the most honoring things was when like a local community member who was a customer of ours said, hey, my son and his friends play youth football. Like, would you guys be willing? I was like, I'm sorry, I can't. But that was like so endearing and wonderful, and it just goes to show you kind of how far we're going and how far we've come.
Well, I think the future is, you know, can you be the Chico's bail bonds to the Bad News Bears? Can you figure out a way? I'm saying that humorously, but that was sort of avant-garde. That was the idea that, you know, sometimes you have to figure out where you can advertise something that isn't traditionally advertised. So the fact that you're having these conversations, and as some of the bigger picture advertising conversation changes in the state, you know, maybe that does give you some room in the future.
I could touch on a little bit more about this from a signage
standpoint, that's what I
too.
was
Yeah, like this connects to your digital strategy as well. Like, if there's a sign in a town that you might be like 30 minutes from, somebody might catch that sign real quick, but they might not see the brand name. Or like, that's a great opportunity for them to see your brand. So you want to make sure it looks awesome, and then you want to make sure that when they search that brand, you know, they have that same experience on the website and in the store. Like, really making sure that experience falls all the way through. And like, one thing that we do for our SEO clients, we're always asking about, you know, where they have billboards and where they're doing signage, because if somebody's driving by that sign and they see something about the dispensary, but maybe they didn't catch the name, they might go to Google and search dispensary near me right there, right? So like, you want to have a landing page optimized for where they are in that area, right? So like, if your dispensary's in Bennington and they're in Keene, New Hampshire or whatever, and you search dispensary near me from there, you want a page on your website that says, hey, we're a dispensary near Keene, so that Google can serve that page up when people are searching for it. And then once people land on that page, like, obviously there's a lot of other options for dispensaries that they want to go to, so you got to make it enticing for them to come to your dispensary, and that's an opportunity for you to collect their email address. And maybe they're not going to come to your dispensary that day, but if you then have their email address, you can turn them into a customer. So yeah, there's a lot of like ways to consider those interaction points. Like I said, it's the same kind of thing as like getting an article in your local newspaper. That's an opportunity to turn those people into customers.
A sort of a tangent question, Brendan, you know, knowing that billboards are not allowed in Vermont,
Yeah.
but they are in Mass. Have you guys utilized billboards in other states? Is that something, and do you see the difference with the retail traffic based on a billboard that might be by an exit close to one of your locations versus not having that?
Yeah, billboards are interesting, like, there's no way to track it. Unless you put a QR code up there, which is like, you don't want people driving. There's really no way to track it, so we're pretty strategic. We've had one in North Adams, you know, on the way to our Williamstown store for probably 4 years now, and it's a staple, and we love it, and we don't know if it works, to be honest, but we like it. We have a couple in Boston, and we actually do think, we think some of the traffic that we've seen, the increase that we've seen is attributable to having more visibility there. But it's a gamble. You know, that's why we invest so heavily with canna planters and their services, because, you know, for the most part, it's very trackable. Revenue attribution, all those all those KPIs and metrics that you need to really determine an accurate ROI on your spend. You know, I'm not calling billboards willy-nilly, but you're just not going to get the same data points that you get with, you know, some of the more digital avenues. But yeah, we love billboards in the right position. Yeah.
And are there digital aspects of that, digital signage, Zach, that you guys like, whether it's like the MBTA or, you know, places where you can use, I'll call it electronic billboards that might have some more flexibility?
Yeah, we don't leverage too much of that on behalf of our clients, but we have those conversations all the time. I think obviously you can't do billboards in Vermont, so you got to get a little bit more creative. But a lot of our clients are near, you know, like tourist attractions or resorts, or they're near Killington or Stowe or whatever. And a lot of people, when they're, you know, planning out their trips to go to those areas, they might be searching like dispensary near Killington or dispensary near Stowe. So again, if you've got a landing page on your site, and then even if you like partner with that mountain and maybe have like some pamphlets when they come in, or maybe there's some local businesses around, like Stowe probably won't let you do that, but maybe there's a couple local restaurants that might in that area. So yeah, just getting creative and thinking of ways like, if you're gonna spend money on like putting some pamphlets in a place, like how do you actually get the return out of that? And a lot of that is gonna be email and search results.
Yeah, what we do is to track things like that, like whether it's pamphlets or bar coasters, each set has its own dedicated QR code. So our director of marketing, when she goes in every day, she can actually see in real time what kind of, you know, who's linked, how many hits basically each one of those locations has had, which is wonderful. So it's like, you know, we invested heavily. We have a Portland, Maine location, and it's very saturated there. If you're familiar with it, if there's like a store, like I could literally throw a baseball to like 6 stores around my store. But we really doubled down with, you know, hospitality folks and industry folks, and you know, putting coasters in places, and it's been awesome to see like the actual click-throughs from all those different coasters and pamphlets, and we do like penny pre-roll cards that, you know, our team hands out to people all the time, and just being able to see those actually come through is pretty cool. But yeah, it's hard. That's more traditional kind of boots on the ground, but it works.
So maybe my last one that I'll put in the traditional camp is maybe it'll do something that's a leap, right? It's not radio, it's podcasts. There's a conversation about cannabis.
Yeah.
How are they worthwhile to be as either a sponsor or an advertiser? Is it based on the reach? Is it based on the personality? Is it based on the theme content of the podcast? Do you guys, you know, support those type of things? And
Yeah, I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts, and basically anytime someone asks me to be on one, I say yes. You know, I just whether they have 10 followers or 100,000, I don't discriminate. You know, I want to get the message out there. So I love podcasts because they're forever. You know, you do it, you sponsor it, and it lives there. And it's just anytime someone goes back, you know, it's always going to be there. So I'm a big proponent of podcasts. I don't know from a digital standpoint, other than kind of sharing it on LinkedIn and your website. I don't in backlinking and all those things. I don't know how powerful it is for like your digital strategy, but I just think putting yourself out there is important as a business owner, and you know, so yeah, I love them.
Is it something that someone that does it can leverage digitally?
I always come back to SEO and backlinks. Like any podcast that you get on is another opportunity for another website to link to yours and send those trust signals to Google. But I think it's also worth considering the audience that a podcast has, because even if they don't have a that can have an impact on people coming to your shop. Like if this is a podcast that like everybody around town listens to and they're like saying you should go to this dispensary, it could work.
So that's sort of my traditional, before we jump on and talk more about digital, questions. Have anyone exploring the traditional side, comments?
We want questions.
Anybody alive? If
Yeah.
you're alive, raise your hand. Yeah, I love it. Yes, sir. And just tell us who you are and where you're from so we can all learn.
Yeah, so my name's Joe. I came over from Massachusetts. I actually work in the industry on the packaging side. And you guys mentioned email a couple times. One thing I've noticed, especially in the last, I'd say even the last 3 months, is, it seems like it would be like a constant cat and mouse, but I feel like we're at a point where emails are increasingly going to spam folders. And even like things that I'm signed up for, like for example, like I coach lacrosse, and we have a program that blasts everything, and I wasn't getting the message. Like it was all going to my spam folder. And recently as a company, we found out that like a scary amount of our just regular communication to like not even cold outreach. Like some of our clients who we do a lot of business with was all going to spam folder. And I was just curious, is that an area you guys work on?
Yeah.
Is that part of your wheelhouse, or
Yeah.
what do you guys see? Are we alone in that, or is that a big problem right now?
No, I mean that's always been a problem, and I think a lot of that, like what we do to help our clients avoid that is create like what's called an engaged segment. Because a lot of the deliverability aspect of email has to do with how many emails you're sending and how many people are actually engaging with them.
Got
So
it.
if you're sending to a massive list and nobody's opening those emails and nobody's clicking on them, over time, Google or whoever your email domain provider is going to pick up on that,
Got
and
it.
they're just going to send you to spam.
Got
That's
it.
why it's really important to only send to emails that want the emails, right? So like, we try to keep a standard of at least a 25% open rate on emails that we're going to send, but oftentimes average over everything is like closer to 35, 45%. Like the weekend special emails that we send for Silver Therapeutics have like a 55 to 60% open rate because those people want those emails. So yeah, that's my biggest recommendation for that.
That's going to like 60, 70,000 people. It's it's a big list. Like and it works really, really well.
So yeah, keep an eye on engagement, and if you create a segment of individuals that are going to actually engage with those emails, and if your email open rate is below like 15%, that's an issue. You should work on that.
Tell the parents to open their emails.
There's a question down front.
Rev from Sunset Cannabis in Lake Effect, Vermont. Just to piggyback on email question, I've been seeing a trend where people are sending text-only emails. Do you guys have any experience with that? Like, do you think that improves deliverability?
It can. I mean, when you think about getting an email from a retail store and it's just like big and branded and there's a bunch of stuff in it, it doesn't necessarily feel as personalized sometimes. So maybe just sending a plain text email can make it feel like it's coming directly from a human. But it depends. I think it really depends on the type of messaging, right? Because like, if you're sending emails about deals and products and things, like you might want a direct link to a product with a picture of it in there. So all depends on what the messaging is.
Yeah, so the way we have it set up with Canna Planners is an email will go out, and if the individual didn't click on that email, then they'll be prompted to receive the SMS, assuming that they're enrolled and they've accepted that and they want that, so that it's kind of like a 1-2.
Texting is kind of like a different beast in general.
totally.
You're just talking about like plain
I mean,
text.
plain texting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Like,
sorry.
not
Okay.
actually, no.
Right, just
Yeah.
copy, and
We
no
can-
no
yeah.
pictures,
We
no
can talk about
links.
texting too, though. That's
Right,
okay.
and
Yeah,
we're,
my bad,
as you
sorry.
can see, we're segueing to the digital side of the conversation, but anything else traditional?
You guys are talking about getting more involved in local advertising, and I'd like to hear some of your, I guess, favorite unorthodox ways that you've done that. Just really, like sometimes I know you'll see cannabis, like, cause you can't really advertise for the Little League, but that's kind of unorthodox a little bit that someone asked you. So I don't know if you've had any favorites where that you've been able to do that, and it was kind of a weird one.
There's some weird, I mean, I think we've done, I don't want to call it weird, but we've sponsored like some bagels, just like bagel pop-ups and,
Get baked.
yeah, get baked, yeah. Like I love coffee and weed, food and weed, you know what I mean? Like stuff that ties in well with cannabis. I Nothing like too weird. I don't know, you know, have we done anything crazy?
I mean, nothing crazy. I think
Yeah.
like it's just important to think about anything that's exciting that's happening
Yeah.
and just letting your local news sources know. Because a lot of the times, like these local, like WCAX or whatever, they're just looking for stories about things that are happening locally. So if you open up a new shop, or you have a new partnership, or you're doing an event or something, like just having that connection to your local news sources, I think is big. And a lot of people forget that all you got to do is just send an email if it's happening.
Kind of piggybacking off that last question, I was wondering if you had experience leaning into 21 plus over crowd, like, oh, no, this is the adult town soccer team, co-ed, so maybe it's already understood.
Yeah.
There's no chance of kid engagement, as opposed to.
I haven't thought about it, but I love it.
Yeah, no, I had a conversation, they were called like Boston Social Sports, now I think they're called like Yo-Yo or something. So I went back and forth with them a little bit to consider spot, because they have like hundreds of thousands of people. They do kickball and dodgeball, they do everything, kind of in and around Boston. So yeah, I've gone that route, didn't close on anything, but have definitely like thought about that and like other interesting ways, unique ways to engage with a 21 plus demographic.
It's interesting, you're talking about, it was originally called the Boston Sports Club, which they started with.
Oh, BSC,
Which they started with, let's take bus trips of adults from the colleges up to Vermont and New Hampshire to go skiing.
Yep.
And now to the point now, like you're right, they have kickball teams and
Everything,
pickup basketball.
everything you can imagine, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One more?
I guess also a bit tangential, have you guys worked with like colleges or anything associated with upper, like university education, since that's generally somewhere around a 20 amp per hour, something like that?
Yeah,
It's
sorry.
limiting, I mean, that's my world. We are limited, our university is very forward-thinking. I mean, 4 weeks ago, our President Berg published an op-ed in the Rutland Herald talking about the 5 most innovative programs at Vermont State University, and he cited the Cannabis Studies program. So from the top down, we're getting love. The hard part is, 21 plus is a senior or a super senior if we're lucky. So we really have limitations of what we can do on campus. We've been talking about having a career fair with the cannabis industry, and we're getting pushback from our own university campus services, like, hey, we want to bring you catering and, people to rent the facility, and they're like, well, you really can't market cannabis on the campus. I'm like, but we teach it. So it's, you're right. So there you go. Remember, I live in New Hampshire, I have my own set of issues. Have you guys thought about schools and, how to leverage them?
Yeah, so we, our first store opened in Williamstown, Williams College is there. And I went to the rival, I went to Amherst College, played football there, and so it was kind of a cool back and forth, and I'm still very involved with my football program. I have an intern every summer, which is pretty cool, and they've been 19 years, the coach is really great. He's like, I don't care if they're 21 plus, they're not physically working at the stores and distributing cannabis products, so they can kind of work with me, and I go through all sorts of things with them, but it's tough to engage with universities and colleges, just given what you just described. But I am seeing more openness to it. I've definitely seen more openness to it over time, so I'm hopeful that eventually it just opens itself up a little bit more.
Are there digital plays that you figured out or looked into, whether it's, alumni groups or, student government or any of these, or arts groups that you might be able to access college students that fit the cannabis?
No, we haven't touched it much, just because from a compliance perspective, it's not something you really want to get anybody in trouble for. Like, talking about college students on your dispensary website is probably not, there's nothing written about not doing that, but we don't really want to find out.
Right, yeah, you don't want to.
But like, going back to the world of SEO, again, it's just like college students are always searching for dispensaries near their campus, right? So if you have a dispensary and you're relatively near a college campus, you should have a page on your website about the fact that you're a dispensary near that campus. So when people search that, you show up.
Yeah, so in Williamstown, there's so many great museums, like Massimoka, or that's North Adams, sorry, but Clark Museum, the Williams College Art Museum. So we've built digital guides about those places and about how it'd be sweet to smoke some weed and go into those places. And they perform really well, particularly in like the summer months when people, like tourism's pretty high in those areas. We've seen those pages do really, really well for us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The art tops, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I thought, well,
points of interest in general
Yeah.
are great to like, because that, the type of content that we often create for SEO, like if we're gonna build a page about a dispensary near UVM, we'll probably include a blog post about like the Fleming Museum, for example, and link out from that, and then all that content is great to send out to your email list, so.
And you don't need their permission. You're just like highlighting that, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, they're happily getting promoted,
Yeah.
so, right, you're promoting tourism, and you're an aspect of how they can enjoy their tourism, whether they go to the grocery store, or the bar, or the brewery, or the cannabis dispensary,
Exactly.
on their way to the rest of their travel. One other question?
Yeah, before you leave traditional, is there any traditional advertising that you've abandoned? Like, where you're like, this looked like a really good idea, but it did not pay out? Because like, I look at
Yeah.
music festivals this way, where like,
yeah.
music festivals, like, it's great brand acknowledgement for you, like, but we can't sell at the festival.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money, you know, in a situation. I used to work in craft beer, and that was very different. Where you sponsored the festival, and you could sell the beer at the place, and that made a lot of sense because
Yeah.
you recoup it. But is there any things that you tried or just like?
I don't know, the only relevant thing that I can think of is like a dispensary in Boston who would always sponsor Boston Calling that decided to stop doing it because of how expensive it was and how little return they got from it. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head, like, what are you gonna get out of it? This is a big thing to think of. You know, like if you can't sell your products there, then, I don't know, is the brand awareness worth it? Because that's really what it's gonna be at the end of the day.
We've kind of adjusted, right? So to his point, like we moved away from some like direct sponsorships, and instead we just send like what we call a field marketing rep, and they'll just go to the event and just hand goodies out, and you know, it's not for sale, it's, you know, totally legal and with cards, and again, to link back to us, and that's proven to work really well. So we have like 2 regional field marketing folks. One, Kelly, she kind of handles Williamstown, Bennington, Saratoga Springs, we're opening in Lake George this month, like, so kind of that area, and then we have Chris who manages, you know, like Palmer, Boston, Berwick, Portland. And so we've been able to kind of like, they've been able to divide and conquer, go to events, hand these types of things out, and it's done really well for us.
And to just piggyback on your comment about events, and the shameless plug for, that Eli Harrington would want you to make, at 2 o'clock today, there'll be a panel about off-site dispensary test that's gonna happen here today. The idea there is that if you can create a single-day license, like you can get a liquor, like a craft beer, could get a liquor license at an event, at a concert, the hope is that we can prove out to the control board and legislature, we could do this with cannabis as well. Because technically, in the law, you are allowed to buy cannabis in the state of Vermont, but it doesn't say where or how you can consume it. It tells you where you can. So we're trying to use that leverage point to say, here's a legal place where you can consume it in a single day format. So you could have a concert, you could have a college reunion, you could have a farmer's market. So 2 o'clock, one of the 2 rooms. So that's my shameless plug. All right, so
Before we move on from traditional,
Please.
the one thing that we mentioned a lot but didn't dive too deep into is like your brand and your customer experience. Like, sounds obvious, but these things are the most important things, right? Like, when we talk about getting reviews on your Google business profile, it has a direct impact to like the customer experience and the bud tender experience. So it all starts from there, which I think Silver Therapeutics has done a really great job of. Like, your retention is pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, it starts with our team. You know, we have like a 90% plus retention rate with our team members, and I think that's what drives customer retention. We take care of our teams, they take care of our customers, so for the most part, everyone's happy. My wife answers all the Google reviews, so I hear right away when someone's unhappy, and I tell that manager to take care of it right away. Because if, you know, if we don't, it just eats at me, because I used to answer those, you know, so.
And we're always hammering that on
Yeah.
calls every month. It's
Yeah.
like, you need better Google reviews, you gotta
Yeah.
have amazing Google reviews, and like that over years has like translated directly into
Totally.
your business plan. you
Yeah,
know, so.
yeah, I can't express enough, like, for any operators out there with retail or any brand, like, the GBLs, the Google Business Listings are so powerful. Like, I mean, we've had a couple kind of get suspended, unfortunately, Canada Planners has gotten them right back up. But there was one time, I think it was down for a week for one of our locations, and we saw like a 10% dip in sales. and it's real, like it screws you up, so, we're always just modifying them, making sure they're, just everything is ideal and optimized.
And Google makes it really fun for us.
So maybe
Yeah.
a question, you don't have to segue to, there's no, as you can see, no hard format here.
Yeah.
Is there a philosophy of the brand that you articulate to the staff so that they can articulate it to customers and create that customer engagement, or that, like, oh, I come here because I like the way these people think?
Treat every customer like a patient. We're all self-medicating, whether you have your medical card or not. I haven't smoked in weeks, I was 12 years old, and it's helped me my whole life, and I'm not saying you should do that at 12 years old. I grew up in a small town, and that's what you did, you played sports and drank Budweiser and smoked weed, but, it's helped me through many times in my life. It still helps me, and my wife and I smoke every night once the baby's down, and we enjoy ourselves, and so it's about compassion and not upselling, just listening to the customer. We have a dialogue, thank you for choosing Silver Therapeutics, welcome, what are you looking to achieve? I'm having trouble sleeping. Okay, sorry to hear that. What's your preferred consumption method? I prefer edibles. You just, in like 10 seconds, you just narrow down exactly what this person needs, and it feels nice, it's not rushed. So we put a lot of time and resources into training, into retraining, and as soon as I get a Google or I see a Google review, it's like, this person wasn't nice to me, I'm on, because I'm like, that is not what we stand for. And I know there's always two sides to a story, it's always kind of in the middle. Yeah, that's like how we treat our people and how they treat our customers.
It extends to how you treat our team too,
Yeah.
because every single interaction that we have with anybody from Silver Therapeutics, like if it's an email, it starts out with, hey, hope you guys are doing great, and at the end it's like, be well,
Yeah.
have a great day. It's like
Yeah.
always the most pleasant
Yeah.
interaction, and that's like, I know that that's what your customers are experiencing in the store too, and it really has a big impact. Because there are other interactions that you can have, and you can tell that maybe customers are experiencing that too.
Yeah, because it's a business philosophy. I turned 50 and I made a promise to myself that, and it was going to sound really strange, I'm not going to work with assholes anymore. If I'm dealing with somebody who's going to yell at me over, their issue that now has become my problem because I'm their vendor. I spent 40 years in the TV business and video production, advertising business, and I'm like, I don't need you to pay me and yell at me. I'll go find somebody that I like to talk to, will pay me, and won't yell at me. So I think that's really refreshing to hear you, because, and again, it's a business, it's about making money, but I think you're doing well by doing good. It's a philosophy I love, and I'm glad to hear that. So let's talk about digital, because I put on there Zach's slide, digital guru. And I'm not kidding. I watched some of the stuff that you and campaigners do, and I'm amazed by how you find ways to reach people. I want to talk about a strange one. LinkedIn is a really interesting place to market the cannabis industry. You guys use it very well. Why was there a philosophy to use that, and how have you leveraged Silver in that? We'll use you guys as sort of like the case study.
Yeah, I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to Will, because he's our CEO and founder. He just does an awesome job on LinkedIn of like having his own voice and then having that translate to Cannabis voice. And he keeps it really fun and lighthearted, and I don't know, something that bothers me a little bit about LinkedIn is it's kind of like an echo chamber where everybody just goes to complain about everybody else. And it's like, I want for Cannabis to, in the same way that when I get an email from anybody at Silver Therapeutics, it's like refreshing and feels great. Like that's how I want people to interact with our brand. And I think, obviously Will shares that to the point where like we're having a lot of fun now. Like you look at our Instagram, it's mostly just Will making hilarious videos with Steve. And it turns out great. Like people come up to us at the trade shows and are like, I love your Instagram videos. And it has nothing to do with the work that we do, but it has everything to do with like how we do the work and having fun. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's, and like obviously, yeah.
It's the personality,
Yeah,
and I think from you as a vendee, a customer,
Partner.
that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just straightforward. The idea like, who do I want to have representing my brand?
Yeah.
That's got to mean a lot to you. That while they're incredibly professional, they also don't they're not gonna cause you distress, because you're already coming, as you already stated, your philosophy is, this isn't about stressing, number crunching, this is about taking care of patients and taking care of people.
Yeah, no, I'm, every day I'm trying to eliminate more bullshit out of my life, right? I think we all are. And I don't want to work with assholes either. And so fortunately, we're in a position where we can make those kinds of choices and decisions. And I've loved Will from the moment we hung out, and I know it's so cheesy, but like I invest in people and how they treat other people, how they, and Will just from the beginning, and everybody at Canna Planners, it's just like they care and they're passionate about cannabis. And they are truly, every day I know that they're acting in the best interest of their customers. Like they're truly doing everything they can to help you win. They're coming to the table proactively. They're, it's awesome. We've been almost 7 years now.
Brendan was our first ever retail cannabis client.
Yeah.
We started with back in 2019, Silver Therapeutics. So we've grown with, you guys having one store to now you guys having 8, 9.
We've sold a couple, but I've opened about a dozen,
So our philosophies are very much entrenched in that standpoint. So it just makes a lot of sense that we kind of interact the way we do on LinkedIn. And I don't know, I think one of our goals as a company is to destigmatize cannabis and to make it more inviting and welcoming and to kind of break down the barriers. And so I think that extends to every touch point that you have.
And so with digital being, I'll say it, maybe you will agree with me, a bit impersonal, how do you create that personality into
the humor? Like people remember humor, listen, if you're on LinkedIn and you're complaining, cool, you have every right to do that. You can talk shit about whoever you want to talk shit about, but I go on there and I share good news. Hey, we just opened this, or hey, I really want to highlight this vendor or this person because that's the way I use it. I personally don't think you have anything to gain by going on there and just ripping on people. Again, if that's what you want to do, go for it. From a karma perspective, I don't believe in that. And I also feel good because I pay my bills, right? If I didn't pay my bills, I wouldn't go on LinkedIn, acting righteous. Humor I would say through Will is really compelling, and then for us it's just we just want to spread, good energy.
All that being said though, we have an amazing team of people at Canna Planners. You can see all these people in mustard and purple colored shirts. They're awesome. Every time you get on, it's not all about having fun all the time. We meet our clients where they're at, which I think is really important to the point that we become an extension of their team. So if they're having a down month, we're having a down month. It's we're right there beside you. And I don't know. I think that's incredibly important, and that's something that I've taken from other agencies that I've worked at, where it's difficult to build a team that you have the full confidence in to take that to every client interaction. I think that's the hardest thing about this. I've been on a team of 75 SEOs where it's you get on a call with your dealership client and you don't care about it. Nobody cares at the end of the day. And that is so different from what we've told
So is
people
that
at Canna Planners.
maybe part of your digital strategy is figuring out what is caring, what is interesting in the message?
Totally.
Maybe I'm going to steal a little bit from Rev's question, which is there a digital platform that you've started to use that you go, wow, this really lets us show the personality of the brand?
Yeah, totally. Email. It always comes back to email, but I think Alpine IQ and Clavio are really powerful tools. One cool thing that you can do is set up automated email campaigns based on customer interactions at the store. So that can either be really dry and bland, or it can be really personalized and it can feel like you're building a relationship. That all depends on the
Can you
strategy.
give us a little copy example, or is it hey, hey, you haven't been here in a month. Did you get a flat tire? That kind of
Sure.
stuff?
But I think the main takeaway is your top 5 to 10% of your customers are going to drive 60 to 75% of your revenues.
Yeah,
Right?
roughly.
So if you can work a couple extra percentage points out of that top 5 to 10% of customers, it's going to impact 75% of your revenue. Right? So if you can just have an automated email campaign that gets that person who's typically coming back every 30 days to come back every 14 days and make an additional purchase, or get them to buy an extra thing in their cart because they're just excited to be at the dispensary or whatever, or they're excited about a new brand that's going to come in. It makes all the difference.
Yeah, we do all sorts of campaigns and flows, bring back to Maine. So like you touched on, if you haven't been to the store in 29 or 30 days, you get hit up. It was just my birthday the other day, so started a birthday email telling me there's a penny pre-roll waiting for me at the store. So just like different cool ways to engage.
Yep.
I think is, I always say I want to try to make it more fun, through how we communicate to our customers, and more relevant. And Canna Planner's done an incredible job with that. We're doing like Jeff, shout out, he does our emails. Like just every week, every month, like it's evolving and it's getting better and better and better.
Yep.
And that's because of Canna Planners.
Yeah, we're always trying to think about how can we like automate and scale. Because you're always like
Yeah.
talking to more customers, and opening more stores, and we want to make sure that like we have the opportunity to keep all this stuff running and do more fun custom stuff in the meantime. So
Can we talk about one non-fun thing?
Sure.
Meta?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at everybody in the crowd, all right. For a technology company that wants to be the voice of the people, and just 3 weeks ago, it was 71% approval rating in the state of New Hampshire, legal cannabis. Like, why are they such hard asses? Why is it difficult to work with, and
Yeah.
how do you work around it?
I have a theory. I mean, it's probably big pharma and alcohol companies, applying pressure because we're a threat. They drive way more revenue to Meta than we could ever imagine, billions and billions of dollars annually. Could be that. I mean, at this point, I just don't give a shit. I really don't. I don't care if my Instagram gets taken down. I don't care if my Facebook, okay, cool. We'll handle it ourselves. And that's where email and all of that is so critical in the in-store experience. Like, I'm sorry, but if I get it if you base your decision on an Instagram profile, cool. But I don't think we're gonna lose all that many people by not having, by having our Instagram shut down. And so, and kudos to our marketing team, like every time it happens, we get back up with a new handle, and, at one point, I think we were up to 20,000 plus followers, and boom, and at first it kind of rips your heart out, man, and you just gotta move on, right? That's this industry, shit happens every day, every week, every month.
in general, that's the only negative impact, that little feeling.
Yes.
Wait, sales didn't actually get it. Who cares?
Exactly,
Yeah.
sales weren't impacted, everyone's okay, it's just an Instagram account.
Yeah.
But it is a bummer, I feel bad for the people that put a lot of time and work into it. That's who I feel bad for, I don't feel bad for us. But yeah.
And so, Zach, if Facebook or an Instagram are more of a marketing face by Google AdWords, you're putting more of a business face on it. Is that how you correctly use social media tools, is tie it back to?
I don't think there's
Google
any correct way to use it at this point. Like, we were doing Google Ads for a while. Like, you can do meta ads if you want. There are ways to get around the regulations, and you can build clean landing pages and do all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, from what we've seen, it's just typically not worth it. But other operators, will tell you differently depending on where they're at. Because, we know that there's some in New York City and Brooklyn that spend a ton of money on meta. Their return, I don't know. They say it's great. I haven't seen the data. We did Google Ads for a while for Silver Therapeutics and other dispensaries where we were spending a good amount of money on showing up in the sponsored ads in Google search results. And it's the same thing as Meta, like you just build a clean landing page, don't directly connect it to your domain, and you can be up and running. And what happened there was once we started doing it, other competitors started doing it, and then cost per click numbers just kept going up and up and up, and the only winner is Google at the end of the day. And when we finally just shut these campaigns off, again, we didn't really see that big of a change in revenue being driven.
And we just reallocated the spend.
Yeah, exactly. And so the organic clicks, things that are happening outside of Google Ads, your Google Business Profile and your website, are probably more powerful than spending money on Google Ads at the end of the day.
Yeah, we just doubled down on John over there in his SEO.
That's
research
right.
rate.
All right, so we got about 10 minutes left. Questions?
Question.
Perfect.
1, 2, sorry.
So, nowadays the technology buzz is all about AI. I'd be curious to hear from either of you if you've seen an impact, positive or negative, of that technology or how you're leveraging it.
Yeah, we're definitely starting to see an impact. When it comes to Google search results, we haven't seen the AI overviews take over local searches quite yet. So when you search things with near me on it, you're still getting local map pack results. You're not really getting the AI results. But also from what we found, a lot of the traditional SEO best practices translate to these AI platforms. So like we oftentimes will test searching things on ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, and a lot of times our clients come up for the same things in those that we would want them to come up for in Google. So you just got to pay attention. I think like we don't have to worry about it too much, like I said, because like the most important thing in Google is dispensary near me, and that hasn't been taken over by AIs yet, but we're leveraging it. Like we use AI a lot day to day. It helps us out in terms of like proofreading stuff or creating like a quick email copy that you want to edit. Like we never will copy and paste directly from ChatGPT and use it. You want to get a human eye on it and do a little bit of editing, but I think it's silly not to start integrating AI into your day-to-day workflow because it's super powerful.
Yeah, I've seen some demos for like AI apps, I guess, that you can plug into your website that will make like SKU recommendations to customers visiting your
AI
website.
bartenders.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, based on kind of previous purchase histories. We haven't adopted any. You know, there's kind of a creepiness factor there. You know.
They're slowly getting better. They're not the best.
Yeah.
They're not like actually giving you the
Exactly.
answers you want as a customer.
Exactly. But yeah, so I use ChatGPT, but like, you know, from like a retail perspective, we're not really utilizing it at this point.
I think that's where we're going to see it have a big impact, though. Like
Yeah.
Terply and Pluggy are two
Yes.
really big companies that are doing pretty cool stuff with the chatbot AI.
There was.
Yeah, I know, I
one-
misspoke.
sorry.
We're only supposed to go till 12:15, just for folks that want to see Bill Hanger speak. I don't want to force them to stay in the room, but if you had a question, maybe we'll wrap up after your question.
Mine is super small, I guess, because everyone's dealing with that being a pain in the ass. What are your thoughts on the idea of moving to places like Blue Sky Social, where the whole point is not to have those limitations there? You can say the word cannabis and weed and smoke.
I'd say if it works, great. We're just always going to double down on where the customers are at.
Yeah.
Like we get these questions about weed maps and Leafly all the time. I think the thing to consider is like wherever you're going to acquire a customer, the goal should be to keep them in your ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So like if you take a customer from weed maps and they buy something from your website, you don't want them to go back to weed maps. Like that should be the ultimate goal regardless of the platform.
Sweet.
Like I said, I don't want to go over, because I know there's another panel knocking on the door in a minute. Any other questions? So I'll wrap up with, you guys are the dynamic duo. And no, seriously, because I know you said you've been working together for 7 years,
Yeah.
but the philosophy of your brand and the attitude of your firm, that's important. You know, I've owned a production company, I've worked with agencies, you know, I've worked with the brand, and there's this synergy. And the more synergy that exists, it's almost like he can answer your question before you get the question out of your mouth, and you go, you know what, I don't even need to ask you your question, because I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
It moves things along faster and better. Is that sort of how hard was that to develop, and how can you give advice from?
Sparks flew right away with it.
Is there advice from a brand and an agency that you can give to our audience going out the door?
Yeah.
Find good people.
Right.
Like find good people to work with.
It reminds me of a question we get all the time. It's like, because we work with a lot of dispensary retailers and a lot of them are even in the same town or city. And it's like, why would we work with you guys if you're working for our competitors? And it's like, that's a good question, but to your point, it's like we've been doing this for so long that we know all the best practices. And we know that like, no matter who you are, like everybody can see what you're doing from like an SEO perspective. There's tools out there that you know. So like at the end of the day, you just want the best. We're a tool in your tool shed, and you want the best tool to use for the job. So
Brendan, Zach, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.